Welcome back to DM-Nastics, the gym for dungeon masters to work out their minds. I'm DM Neil, aka Jote Maniac.
And I'm DM Derek, aka How Not to DM. It's good to be back in the gym, Neil.
And it's great to have you back here in the gym. I will tell you that I did get a wonderful creatine. This is not sponsored, but if you ever want good creatine, because normally it's really bad, the brand Animal, delicious. They have a Smarties flavor. Now you know. But instead, what we're going to talk about today is another article from the one, the only, J.R. Zambrano from Bell of Lost Souls.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show. Been on here. And I think this one's interesting because we're going to try and fulfill basically a player's bucket list.
So the title of the article is D&D, 5 things every player should try at least once. And I read through these, Neil, and I think I might technically be 5 for 5, except, well, we'll see if you count some of these, because, you know, does playing one session with a character count as playing that character? You know, we can argue the finer points of it. But I'm excited to get into it because I think it is a good list. And having done most, if not all of these things, has definitely expanded my horizons of D&D and TTRPGs. And I think it's made for a more fun and rich experience.
So one of the ways that I get these articles is that basically I just set up a Google alert for Dungeons and Dragons. Every day I get an email. It shows me a bunch of news about Dungeons and Dragons. I look through. Sometimes it's articles. Oftentimes, if something of note happens, it's just everyone talking about the same thing. But oftentimes it'll be articles about different things. Something of interest happens. I throw it in a giant folder. And then when time comes for us to break something down, I'll just dig through and see what strikes my fancy. This one stood out because I don't know that players inherently think of these things. So yeah. I want to talk about it because when players go to create their character, these are the things that like now I can think about and push them towards them if they haven't done them before. If they're thinking, I don't know what I want to be, throw these ideas out at them because these are all leaning towards character choices is what these 5 will be.
Yeah. And I would add that they're kind of like get outside of your comfort zone ideas as well, right? Like a lot of them say, oh, you've done X, maybe try Y or that kind of thing. So especially if you feel like you've been in a rut with your last few characters or your players feel like they've been in a rut, it's a lot of fun to say, okay, curveball, you know, do something that you would never think of doing or try stuff that you would never think to try. And maybe you'll find a lot of fun in that. So anyway, without further ado, let's move to number 1 on the list, which is play a human fighter.
Nice.
So this is the one where I'm not sure if I counted or not. I don't remember if I've talked about it on this show before, but this it was COVID days, really early COVID days, like within the first few months, and probably like May or something of 2020. And I had found a Discord server. I'm pretty sure it was the Sneak Attack Discord server. Longtime listeners will remember DM Reed and Josh, both being from Sneak Attack. Josh is also the DM of Titans of Altera, another actual play. But anyway, I think I found like a group that were like, oh, we're going to play. Whoever wants to play, join in. And I did. And I'm pretty sure everyone else was like teenagers, like maybe younger than 18. No one had video cameras on. And so I was there for like maybe an hour and then I kind of excused myself and didn't show up again because I don't want to end up on a list somewhere.
I get it.
Yeah. But that was my human fighter that I had picked and they were playing Theros. So I built kind of like a Greek themed human fighter and then never played him again.
Yeah. So the article is really leaning into the basis of the fighter. As much as it is the human. So fighters I've definitely played and for the reason it kind of says, because certainly through the 3.5 Pathfinder 1 days, because your weapon becomes an extension of your arm. you're choosing weapon specialization, greater weapon specialization, superior weapon specialization, super duper, super cool weapon specialization. Basically, it's how hard and how many times can I hit with what I want to do, which even lore wise makes sense. But also, depending on what style you want, sometimes they're going to make a better archer than rangers do. Sometimes they just have more skill, or wow, skills is the wrong term. Sometimes they're going to have more feats. And especially if we're going to choose a human, they're going to have way more feat options than anyone else. So you can kind of customize this fighter, especially if you're choosing human, a little bit more than anyone else, which makes up for the ground that you feel like you're losing to the idea that like, oh, well, the wizard gets all these spells or the druid gets to turn into animals, so on and so forth. That would be my push when trying to have someone play as a human fighter, that, yeah, sure, those things are true. This has come up on the pod. Now I remember, because I remember I'm going to say something again. But the nice thing about it, especially if someone is starting out, then the rest of it gets out of the way because the mechanics are a little bit more straightforward. I don't like the word simple or easy because they're still there and the mechanics are required, but they're a little more out of the way. So then you can focus on, okay, why am I this fighter? Why do I do these things? What is my backstory? What is my motivation? Also go hit things. So.
Yeah, I think and JR mentions this, like, it's kind of a meme, like the human fighter. Oh, it's the basic one. It's the one you make the newbies play. It's like, it's just kind of the milquetoast choice. But to your point, Neil, you can make a ton of interesting decisions about your backstory and about your role play. And, what percent of the game is going to be combat versus those other things. It really depends on your play style. But, that doesn't mean that the rest of the game has to be boring because you have more straightforward decision making during combat. There's tons of interesting stuff you can do with fighters. And there's a lot of cool subclasses. The champion is kind of like the main one because that's the free tier, in D&D Beyond or whatever. But Battlemaster has a ton of fun customization you can do. And then there's only been more subclasses they've added since then. So yeah, with all the feats you can do, and with all of the background and everything, you can make so many different kinds of fighters and have so many different kinds of flavors and tell so many different kinds of stories. But yeah, still be that really consistent damage dealer that every party needs.
It dawns on me in this moment, and this will round us out and I'll move us to the second one. For me, as the DM at my home table, the number one scariest player is my human fighter.
Oh, easily.
Because he will beat the brakes off everything I put on the table.
Yeah. My friend Matthew, he wasn't a human, he was an elf or an Eladrin fighter. But yeah, like with enough of these different things stacked, he was shooting, 3 arrows a turn with elven accuracy, and with all this stuff, he could deal insane damage, even in like mid or like tier 3 or tier 4. Before we even hit level 20, he was doing crazy damage. So there's definitely, pros and cons. But I think it's worth an exploration for sure.
Number 2, play a character of a different gender. I'd even push this one a little further, just in the sense that I would say play a character that doesn't fit your body, in the sense that, like, if you're a very tall person, I would also suggest playing a very small character.
Yeah.
If you're shorter, my suggestion would be to play a very tall character, like something to just approach the world from a different perspective is what the essence of this is going to be. Because if you're doing a full self insert every time, like D&D is an opportunity to not do that. Don't get me wrong. No matter what character you create, a little bit of you is there every single time, but pushing that a little further is getting out of that comfort zone and just seeing what happens. Like the idea, like, I'm not the world's tallest person. And I realize that all the time, because when we're on Zoom, we're all the same height. And then Neil goes and meets people in the real world. And I'm like, it's all good. I am who I am. And I'm totally comfortable with that. But the idea of playing a Goliath for me is interesting. Because it's like, okay, so what is the world like at this perspective? In the same way, even playing a dwarf is like, okay, what is the world like at this perspective? Like when I play the forest gnome in the game that I'm a player in, I always try and really think like, okay, not just I'm that character, but like I have to look at the world from like a 2.5 foot height. The entire world is different every time I want to interact in that world with that character. And I think that's the real essence of what this one is getting at.
Yes, definitely. My friend Matthew from my home group, the last campaign we finished, we did Salt Marsh. He did something similar where he picked a character because he's always plotting and planning. Like that's his forte. He loves the mechanics. He loves the chess match of like how to make combat work and who should do what to do the optimum damage or whatever. But he like hamstrung himself with his character and played really, really low intelligence. And so he wouldn't contribute that kind of stuff to the party like he was used to doing. And he had so much fun with it. And we all had so much fun with it because I don't know if you do this, Neil, but whenever I'm DMing, I always use a lot of figurative language when I'm talking as NPCs or when I'm describing stuff. And he would always interpret it literally, and it's just a good bit. But yeah, that's exactly what this one's playing. I have played characters of other genders, and I've enjoyed it a lot because it makes me, I don't know, in a very small way, view the world through a different lens. And I think that's really fun. Like you said, instead of being the self-insert, how would someone with a completely different worldview to mine handle these situations?
All right, number 3. I'm excited.
Min-max or don't min-max, depending on your normal mode. So if you're a min-maxer, hey, try not min-maxing this time. And if you're not a min-maxer, maybe dip your toe in, see if you like it.
If you are a min-maxer, one of the ways that I would suggest you don't min-max, try it. Look, just try it. Is go on to D&D Beyond, set the things that you do need to set for yourself, and then hit this fun little button called random. Because for me, it created one of the funniest NPCs I've ever had. They didn't have a cleric, and I hit random. And Greg the cleric is someone they talk about to this day because Greg was awful at clericing. He was yoked because his strength. I don't know. So there was the first time I had ever hit that button, and in my head, intuitively, I guess I thought it would do something like something akin to like a cleric, and I was very wrong. Oh boy, was I wrong. He was yoked. He had the Arcana class. He could barely cast that spell, and they loved him. They loved him so much. And I just played Greg as Greg seemed to appear before me, and I just went with it. And they, like I said, they still talk about Greg. So that's my advice would just be, if you are someone that really min-maxes, it is going to be difficult to kind of remove yourself from that process because it's a process. I do it. I do it a lot because I like min-maxing and then forgetting about it, because then I know my stuff is built to be successful. And then I don't think about it anymore because I know it's right. Air quote. And then I just run away and do whatever I want. But if I just hit random, I didn't do it. I don't have to worry about it. And I just Greg to my heart's content.
I think about like rolling for stats instead of doing the point buy or whatever, giving yourself 3 15s and the stats you need and 3 8s and the stats you don't, or, that kind of stuff. There's something to be said for not min-maxing, like you said, and just seeing where it takes you. And it still could be a lot of fun. And you still could be useful, but just maybe not in the ways that everyone thinks that you should be useful. But yeah, this is a great idea. And I don't know if I'm going to make my players do it, but I might suggest it. Like, hey, maybe let's go for really flavorful characters for this game instead of min-maxed. And then you as the DM don't feel like it's an arms race constantly of having to up your encounters difficulty because of how good your party is at killing everything. That's always fun. Anyway, that was kind of, again, similar to the one previous, like, hey, maybe try something new. Try the other side of the coin. All right. Number 4, be an edgelord. Ooh, I'm interested to see what you have to say about this one, Neil.
I've done it once. I mean, I guess that was the requisite number according to this list. So there is a caveat inside a set of parentheses in this paragraph,
Yeah.
and it is without making your current group hate you.
Are you even an edgelord at that point then?
I mean,
I
so I
know, I'm
guess,
just kidding.
well, no. There's something to be said about that. So like, I'm never completely opposed to inter-party conflict that stays at the table because yeah, whatever. We can all agree that that's a type of character that another character is not going to enjoy, or that there are other characters that will have conflict with each other, as long as it is not then that the players are having conflict with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And thing that I will draw a line on is you're not stepping away or like directly conflicting with the party goal. As long as that's not happening, okay, we can navigate through that. If you're in direct conflict with the party goal just because you're being an edgelord about everything, no, I'll step in because that's not going to be fun. And you're probably going to fall into the everyone hates you section of this. But I had what was called a Satadin, which was it's single attribute dependent paladin, warlock, hexblade that was all charisma based. So then you were the hexblade
you
warlock.
Use your charisma as your attack bonus for your sword, right? And
Correct.
then also doesn't it buff your like armor class and stuff too, or something?
Mm-hmm. And then you can feed the divine smites because you already have extra spells from the warlock. So yeah, it all coupled together, and basically I just needed a high charisma and we were good to go. So yeah, he ended up being pretty edgelordy, but it's the only time I've ever done it. Yeah, he was very edgelordy. I sacrificed all my paladin powers at one point to save us, and then we traveled back in time, and I no longer had a patron. Basically, I became a fighter by the end of the campaign.
Because you just didn't have any power anymore because the being gave you power didn't exist. That's so
correct.
I love the caveat that JR put in there, and I wholeheartedly agree. It is a lot of fun to have that dark backstory, that Batman backstory, and to be trying to avenge your insert person who tragically perished here, or conversely, like you're raised on the streets and you've got to steal everything or whatever it is. There's definitely some allure to it, and there's a lot of media out there that portrays it, these anti-heroes, these reluctant heroes, and they are a lot of fun. So I get it. And yeah, I think there's definitely some room to work that in with your players, like, hey guys, we're going to do an edgelord campaign and all of you can be edgelords, but like we're going to learn about ourselves and we're going to talk about our feelings, and we're all going to be, we're all going to be on a better path by the end. I think that'd be a ton of fun. All right. Last but not least, number 5.
So this is pretty funny because we are 3 days away from me having done this. So play a different RPG. You'd be surprised what you can learn from playing a game that isn't Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, great job, JR. Kind of like how ballet and football have some surprising crossovers. Classic. Of course, I'm a huge proponent of it. I always have been. I always will be. One of two things happens in that scenario, and it's either you are very confident about something you don't like, or you're very confident about something you do. And so you're either going to take back something that you want to incorporate, or you're going to be resolute in something you don't want to do when you get back to D&D. And so is it Blades in the Dark and you want people to think about things that they've previously planned? Is it a different initiative system? Is it there's countless other options that you can pull from other things.
I love learning from other games. I love stealing from other games. I love playing other games to give myself a break and everybody else a break. And I think that when you see the world through the lens, or like you just think about gaming, tabletop gaming specifically through the lens of D&D, it's very one note. And when you've kind of explored what there is out there, you might find something that really scratches that itch that you didn't know you had, or you might find something that you enjoy more. or you might find, you know, ideas and stuff that you want to port over and use with your table too. So definitely encourage everyone to at least try, dip your toes in, and you're going to have a ton of fun. You can do really simple games too. Like, for instance, Neil runs Dadlands every year at a Catacon.
Yep.
And that's like one of the most simple systems
2 pages
you can run, but it's still a ton of fun.
But yeah, like I said, I'm 3 days removed from playing a game with one of our wonderful people from Discord, Zyzagon, and I got to play Dungeon World. I'm going to be honest. I've had all the material for a long time. I don't actually think I ever played it until this weekend. It's just one of those things where I knew what it was and I knew I wanted to look through it, but I just hadn't gotten the opportunity, and I was okay with that. But it was really fun to play because it was powered by the apocalypse, which is always a very difficult thing to run for my brain, just because you as a person running it aren't rolling a lot, possibly ever.
Yeah, I don't think you have to roll at all in Powered by the Apocalypse. I've played Avatar, which is also PBTA. Yeah, anyway.
You can interject some things and you can choose to be the one that rolls, but inherently you don't have to roll anything.
Right, you're not like playing other characters who have their own stats or whatever. Yeah.
No, because one of the biggest things is, like, if I attack as the monster, it's not that I'm making an attack, it's that you're defending the attack that I'm making. Yeah. And so, but yeah, no, it was super fun to play the PTBA. And then it's given me a lot to think about. And there's certain things that I would necessarily do, but there's a billion PTBA things out there. So I'm sure anything I've thought, it exists. So, like, I don't even need to say what I've thought.
Yeah, there's so many. I'm pretty sure Monster of the Week is PBTA as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A bunch. Bunch.
So many of them. I've run different games. I've played different games, and I always have a good time. And I think it is well worth your time, if you haven't, to just give one a try. You don't have to dive headfirst into a super complex system to enjoy yourself. But if you've ever wanted to, like, try a game that's in a different genre, like a sci-fi, you know, a modern day or anything like that, there's so many games out there that are pretty easy to learn that you can kind of dip your toes in and see if you enjoy it.
But with that, if you enjoyed this episode, you can always head over to Apple Podcasts, your podcatcher of choice, and leave us a rating and review. It'll make somebody happy, probably us. And of course, if you wanted to let us know the things that are on your player's bucket list, you can always email us at dungeonmasterblock@gmail.com. And of course, if you head over to social media, don't go to Discord instead. You know what? bit.ly/DM-Banter.
Yeah, Neil and I are going to be planning our next office hours soon. So head over to DM Banter, participate in the daily DM-Nastics, chat with other DMs about your struggles or your triumphs. And stay tuned for those office hours.
Rather than let these mental gains go to waste, let's head to taking your supplements. Taking your supplements. So, Derek, word on the street is you read a book.
It's true. I read a book. But the supplement I want to share is not necessarily specifically a TTRPG book, but it is game adjacent. It is called The Score: How to Stop Playing Somebody Else's Game. And it is by C.T. Nguyen. That is C space THI space NGUYEN. C.T. Nguyen. He is a professor of philosophy at the University of Utah, but also an avid board game, tabletop game, video game player. And his book really dives into, like, numbers and game theory and kind of like why we measure numbers and what games do to, like, motivate us and why we play them. It was very interesting and a lot of fun to read. There were a few parts about it where he specifically references tabletop games and Dungeons and Dragons. And it gave me a lot of ideas about kind of how I've been running my games and maybe how I could adjust them to steer my players in a direction that I want them to go, instead of using kind of the rules as written. What ways I could be creative about how I run my games to kind of motivate my players and help them play the game that we're all interested in playing.
Yeah, Derek and I were chatting a little bit before we started recording. I immediately had a crash out, but that's okay. Because I come from the tech world.
Yes, we both.
There's a common term called garbage in, garbage out. And so just because you have numbers, unless you're interpreting them the correct way, they're pointless.
Yeah. And are you even collecting the right numbers
from the right people? Yeah.
Yes. So many questions. And it is fascinating because we live in a very, what people would describe as data rich world, full of people making decisions on this data. But yeah, is it the right data? Also, are they collecting that data, legally? Anyway, I think that's probably a discussion for a different podcast, but
get the flock out of here. No, I think the anecdote that sticks out the most for me was I remember getting one of the biggest, worst projects I've ever gotten. And then getting down to the point where I'm like, this is the data set that would be most beneficial, and working it out, even going to IT and being like, hey, this would be great. And the immediate response was, you mean like this? And I was like, just so we're abundantly clear, because I was working in a new position. I was like, just so we're clear, you've had that the whole time. Cool. Love it. Great book. I'm sure it would not make me mad at any time. Not at all.
Yeah. The most interesting part was him talking about how D&D kind of the way the game is written incentivizes certain behavior from the players, right? You want to gain experience points and you want to get more gold so that you can buy cooler loot, cooler magic items, cooler armor, weapons, etc. And so when you kind of boil the game down to those two aspects, I need XP, I need gold. That means that to get those things, you have to kill monsters and, explore dungeons, which is in the game's name. So it makes sense. But if you're trying to, tell a very different kind of story and it's not just about slaying dragons and, opening treasure chests, then maybe you need to think about how you're motivating your players and the systems you're using to motivate them. And then if you can change the motivation, or you can change the end result, you can change the motivation, you can change the game you're playing. So it was very interesting. Shout out to Professor Gwyn if you are listening. We're big fans of the book. We liked it a lot.
And we'll have links to that in the show notes. But with that, we shall turn out the lights and head out of the gym. But before we go, I want to implore you, the listener, to join us on the Discord and anywhere else you can find us, and take part in these challenges, exercises, and other amazing conversations being had.
To do that, head over to bit.ly/DM banter and try some DM-Nastics so your players don't ask, do you even lift?